second, yeah. Okay, all right, everyone, it's SIG release, March 25th. So Rado is giving a demo on dependency management. Please go ahead, Rado.
All right, cool. As I was saying, I was working on creating a solution to uh, provide a way to track the dependency changes, version changes in dependencies, and so on. So I've used the Dependabot, which is integrated with GitHub and requires very little configuration. Problem is with repositories that have multiple uh, files that define the dependencies. So, for example, uh, like package.json or the Docker files or basically whatever that can contain some versioned software, right? And the way the dependable configuration works, you have to specifically put every path to every file that you want to track. It doesn't have any like auto configuration or globbing. You cannot use regex and so on. So the way our repositories are structured, uh, we have like multiple Docker files and other the other files that contain the dependencies. So the only way actually to manage it, I guess, would be to auto generate this config every time one of these files gets created or modified. So let me show you. That's basically like a mirror of our GitHub organization. So Nephew project in my account here, and I was just tinkering around KPT Backstage plugins, the repository to create this thing. So uh, generally, as I was saying, it uses Dependabot. So here's the configuration I was telling you about. So it looks, for example, for GitHub Actions. So if you have like some outdated actions, it will update them, or rather create the PR to update them. You have one for a Docker. You have, let's say, for NPM. And as you can see here, you have like specific paths to these files. This file is auto-generated. Let me show you how it's done. It's done through GitHub Actions, and it uses this configuration here. So let me just quickly show you. So every time in main branch, there is some change, whether creation or just altering or removing, for that matter, Docker file, Go mode, or package.json. It will, or it can be run manually if that's also the possibility. So it will check out the repository code and create authentication token, which is then needed to uh, submit pull request. But I will talk a bit about this later. So the next step is, of course, just to set up Python environment. It downloads from the test infra repository, downloads this Python script which generates the dependable configuration file based on what's the content of repository. And basically, if there is a change in dependable configuration, it submits the PR. Sounds pretty simple. There are a few caveats here. one of them is if you want like this action here. So the way it works, it will create the pull request uh, with the change for a dependable configuration after some changes for, let's say, for a Docker file are already merged. So it's not creating them for pull requests, it creates them for already submitted code that was like, reviewed and so on, just to conserve the resources, just not to generate it unnecessarily for every PR. So then the PR is closed. So the way the GitHub internals here works, you basically have to you cannot see the PR number, which I'm putting here in the description. So if you see this kind of PR saying like, dependable, regenerating dependable configuration, you I will show this later. You will see the PR which was actually triggering this dependable PR. But you cannot really just get the closed PR that easily. So this GitHub action here is actually um, only doing this thing. Um, so that's basically the gist of it. Uh, well, so that would be a pretty simple thing, and the problem starts here with create pull request um, portion of it. So uh, first of all, the GitHub, you have to enable GitHub Actions option to create PRs. That's one thing. And the other thing is this process has to be authenticated. So generally it's done through personal access token. So the GitHub action token, it doesn't have the scope needed to create the PR. So you have to provide your PAT or personal access token, which is not really a good solution because this is very prone to errors, to leakage, to, if you create the PAT with, let's say, some expiration date, then you have to have like the procedure to recycle them if they expire. So this brings not only like security problems, but also like additional things that you basically have to do and um, think about them. So there's one uh, there's one possibility to do it in um, pretty nifty way. That's by creating just like a bare bones GitHub application, which can also be used with, if you see here, there is an action to generate this token. So basically, each run, it will create the token with a scope described in the application. And after the run, this token is expired. And also, it adds another safety layer here because you can enable like personal access token you will have access to every repository, basically to like whole organization. With application approach, you can enable this application only on specific repositories there. So that's I would say currently what's in a GitHub offer. That would be the safest approach. So let me show you how it works. Let's maybe try to create something in images. Why not? Let's add Docker file here. For some reason, have to bear with me. Internet today here is pretty finicky. Uh, just like so latest run, I don't know, up get update, just whatever. All right. So we'll go like with normal PR. And I create the pull request against this repository. It will run some sample job. Those were just some of my tests here. Doesn't really matter. I was just testing generating this token from app. But what it will do after all the things pass, whatever way of merging you're using, so if it's PRA or just manually, just whatever. If you merge this change, adding the Docker file, it will trigger um, on the trigger name is on push. So basically, if you merge pull request, it does the push for you, right? To GitHub repo. All right, and it will it's merged. And now if you just wait a second here, you will see the PR, hopefully. Uh, it was working before the call, so okay, it should work now. So you have your dependabot PR for regenerating configuration. You will have the URL with the script that's used for generating it. So you can just if this ever gets changed or whatever, you can just track it here. And you got the PR, which is now it's closed. So I was mentioning this already. There is it needs some special treatment to be pulled from the list. So anyway, if you see the div here, you will see that the Docker type of file has been added in images directory, and the schedule for looking if anything changed there will be executed weekly. You can then either merge it if that's something that you want to do, or you can just close pull request, and that's about it.
So Rado, sorry,
Mhm.
I just missed for a couple of minutes. Sorry if you have already answered this. So you just merged a PR, right? And
Yep.
then it opened a PR. I did not understand.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so I've merged the PR, adding a Docker file, and
Okay.
uh, for Dependabot to look over this file, you have to add it to Dependabot configuration. So that's the second PR here, because
Oh,
the configuration for Dependabot is just a static file, and it has to be regenerated every time you add or remove Docker file, packages, JSON, like whatever way of the um, dependency description you have there. You have in your repo. So that's the configuration here. So you'll have like your Docker, your npm, in plugins, CAD backend, CAD, and so on. I've added one in images, so it's not here, and this action created this change. Um, you can see here the action run. So now, after I merge this, the configuration will contain the path to yet another Docker file to look over. So then the Dependabot runs from time to time, differs what you have in configuration, and creates this sorts of PRs, right? So for example, in one of the files like package.json, it found that you have to bump the backstage core components from this version to this version, and you can
okay.
act on it, just whatever, do some changes, either merge it or just abandon it. um, Depends what you want to do. So in this way, you will have your dependency tracking automated, and if in the future somebody just removes or adds another, this action will automatically generate required config to look over it from this time on, so you don't have to do it manually when you make this sort of change. Um, so that's tested and works pretty well. I've tried few scenarios. here seems to be fine. The problem here, I was the problem here I was mentioning at the beginning is I have to create this application for Nephew project organization. I don't have access rights to do it. So anyone that has them, we can just it takes probably like 5 minutes to do it.
So
Then
do you need the permission at the org level or?
yes. Well, I don't have permissions to add it on a org level. That's my personal
I think we have the people in the call who can make that happen. We have at least Tal and Stephen. I think probably that should be doable.
Yeah, yeah. So that's that's about it. I really wanted to show here. Um, cool. Yeah, Raul, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a basic question in the context. What I
Hmm.
saw was that once we raise the pull request, there is another pull request that is created by the dependabot
Yeah,
to add the configuration. Right? That's basically the theme here, right?
yeah, yeah.
So what happens if there are two pull requests that got merged? Would the
Mm,
latest pull request that is merged will contain both the configuration for both the changes? And
well,
there will be two pull requests raised, right? Like in
that
that case.
that's really configurable. So you can, if you have already one opened,
Mhm.
like this one here, and somebody submits the next, let's say, next Docker file, this will be added as a commit here. So it will just keep one PR open, just add more commits to it.
Also, it is always at any point in time, we'll only see a single dependabot pull request in progress for a given branch. Is that
Yes, yes. Or you can create. It's really configurable here in your in this action create pull request. So you can have all sorts of behavior. It's pretty extensive what you can do with it.
okay? Uh, yeah, okay. I get it. Thank you very much. So basically, the point is, at any point in time, looks like it will be only a single pull request that will be in progress.
Yes. Or
That's okay.
can be multiple if that's something that suits us more. But I guess the one and then you have like commits there. This also can be auto merged. That's also an option. So it will not require another uh, cycle of somebody just going over
Mhm.
PRs and so on. Uh, to be honest, I haven't tested the auto merge function in this GitHub action. But I guess we can, for now, leave it as a manual process. And if that actually works pretty well, we can think about doing the auto merging.
Right. So,
Yeah,
sorry, Bala. Let me just Bala, finish.
sure. Go ahead, Rahul.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Uh, so one thing in terms of there are two pull requests, and those two pull requests have to be merged for the system to work, right? Like that's the basic premise here.
Right.
uh, is it not possible for us to actually in the current pull request check whether the user has or the developer has added the corresponding config, and just fail the CI if the corresponding config is not present, and let the developer add the config manually. We faced a similar problem in one of the other project, and having two different pull requests satisfy a particular feature point, right, is a problem from reward perspective, from multiple other cases perspective. That hence I'm bringing this up.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah. So once the checkout is done here in this portion here, and
Mhm.
then this Python script runs over it. So if there are no changes there that needed PR creation, the PR will not be created. So basically,
Right.
if it just um, it does something to the Docker file, but it doesn't need uh, alteration of the config. It will not create the PR. And yeah, yeah. I guess that's so. Also, you have your path specification, so
Right.
it will
Yeah.
only act when one of these kinds of files gets modified or created.
Yeah, got it. The only point I was trying to make is, you know, is it simply not possible for us to fail the CI if the corresponding config is not changed by the developer, rather than creating another pull request? And these two have to be these two pull requests are not in sync, right? Like not in the sync, meaning that you know, both of them have to be merged for the corresponding functionality to work. So it's basically the same feature, right? Like,
Well, yeah, it will. It actually has kind of like a safety mechanism there. So
I see.
you
Okay.
you cannot you don't really have to merge the dependable configuration in this particular day or whatever hour. Um, you can even like close this. I mean, these dependencies don't change a lot, like not hourly at least, right? So
Okay.
even if it's closed and somebody else opens the same, like another PR, it will still run over the code base and it will add all the required changes. So it kind of, at least some run in the future will cover whatever was changed earlier. And to add, there is an option to add it as a commit to one PR, so not to create two PRs, but it actually produces more problems than benefits. So, if, for example, if somebody is outside of organization, so the way the internal mechanism of security in GitHub works, you have to like allow this person to execute checks, so GitHub Actions as well, right? So somebody has to just click, run the checks and so on. But then you cannot impersonate with a bot, impersonate as this person to add a commit to their PR. It just fails, on some internals of GitHub. So it actually produces more problems than benefits. So I decided to split it and create the separate PR. And this PR is signed as a bot account, so we will not mess with statistics and so on, whether personal or for whole organization, because it's being created as a excuse me, as
Separate.
a separate thing created by GitHub app. So it's seen if you go to the pull request here, you can see that it's marked as a bot here.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all from my side. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Rahul. Radu, I had one more question similar to what Rahul was asking. If you go back to the configuration files, sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
Yeah, sure.
The one that you are showing right now, where you mentioned pods and sorry, the scroll up a bit, where you mentioned the go.mod files, images, and
Yeah,
yes, there.
let
Okay,
me see.
this. So, could you please summarize? So, this dependabot, right? How does it act on each of these? For example, Docker files. If there is a new image, it will automatically trigger
Yeah,
a
yeah. If you see pull requests here, I don't know if we have one for probably it's already closed because I was doing some doing some tinkering around how the merging works here. Um, uh, yeah, but let's say you got some versions there. You've got some versions there in this files, right? So for
yeah.
example, let's say this one. So the change here in package.json is just to bump this
Okay.
version, right?
Okay.
So that's the PR. And sometimes it might be just, you will just merge it and call it a day. Sometimes it will require some bigger or smaller development to accommodate those changes. So, for example, like with a Docker file, you got your I've used here. I've used like a Ubuntu latest, which is actually not a good practice to do, right? But you have your version, excuse me, here, right? So with like Node 21 Bullseye version Slim, right? So depend about, let's say, every week, whatever you specify in your config, will go through all your Docker files and compare them with what's currently on a top of the stable or whatever branch for this. So if it's like 22 or whatever, it will create a PR that, hey, I've got a newer version of this base image here. And yeah,
Okay.
this way you don't have to do it manually, and you can just also have, like, the overview over what's going on in the repository, right? You will have your versions here. Also, you can see, right, that currently you have like 0.18.5, right? Stuff like this.
Okay, so similarly, it will do the same thing for go.mod file. If I have a dependency on a
Yes,
particular module and that the module has a newer dependency, it will go check in the registry, or there's a new version of this dependency, so update.
exactly.
Okay,
Exactly right.
so
Yeah.
okay, all right. And then to Rahul's point, just to understand what Rahul asked, if let's for a given uh, say there's a go mod file and there are two dependencies and uh, both of them have, say, a new version available, that there'll be a single PR mentioning both of them in a single thing. Is that how it is?
It will, yes, it will create one PR and merge those changes. You will have like multiple commits in one PR.
Got it. Multiple comments in a pair. Okay, cool. Uh, yeah, I can see multiple possibilities. Mainly, so one thing is, obviously this is thanks for doing this, Rado. This is really helpful. Uh, but I agree with you on keeping it manual for now, because we have to really verify whether
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
we may not want to upgrade because something may break, something may not work with us, uh, or it may cause some other issues which we do not have time to fix, such as API changes, API incompatibilities, things like that. Uh,
Yeah, so
so,
the depend about updates. So those you can see here, for example, for Backstage plugin out backend and stuff like this. Those are always manual.
got it.
Those are
So there's one thing I wanted to ask. So is there a way for us to take these changes, or when the PR is created, right? Let me put it this way. When the PR is created, probably I think this will go back to our automated testing thing. If when the PR is created, if 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 there's a build with the changes those PRs and we test our builds, we yeah, automatically, both unit testing and end-to-end testing, then probably we'll have some confidence. If we do not do that, then for a reviewer, it may be dilemma. The one thing is, if the knowledge is, if the reviewer is very knowledgeable, then oh no, I really do not want that version because I know it doesn't work because I have the experience. Or if the reviewer doesn't have the experience at all, uh, then we may say there's a new version, let's merge it, and then the problem occurs. So
yeah,
you see what I mean?
yeah,
You see what I mean,
yeah,
Lana?
yeah.
So, so I think the where I'm going with this is probably we are reaching a stage, and there are more use cases for us to run the at least for this. Can we do this at least for this? We can run end-to-end test for the PS.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that it all boils down to the thing that that we started before the R2, so
Yeah.
testing every PR with
Yeah.
end-to-end tests. But it's still work in progress, right?
Yes, it's
Running,
yes.
ru-
But
running.
you can do manually, right? So somebody wants to do
Yeah.
it manually for this particular PR, they can do can they can do with a label, I think, right? For example,
Yeah, yeah. It will not. Now it will not work for repositories that produce images, because then you will have to create, let's say, Docker image, push it to registry, and the end-to-end suite will have to know about the newer version of this image, right? So
got
that's
it.
yeah, we that was kind of put on a back burner, but we have to get back to this. Sorry, Vish, you had a sorry, your hand raised for a while.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Thank you,
Please
Redo.
go.
Yeah, just curious, Redo, is this some sort of a feature that we are using where I can go look up a documentation for this depend about?
It was, yeah, it's merged with GitHub now. It's kind of like a part of it. So if you go
I see.
to Insights here, you got your dependency graph. There is a dependable tab here already. You can see like the runs of this dependable. You can see,
Okay, so I can go to GitHub's depend about documentation to look up
Yep.
this feature. Okay, cool. I was not aware of this, so thank you.
Yep.
Wanted to go read it up. Seems like you have been in the thick of this thing, so you understand this better. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it's part of a GitHub now, so which is pretty nifty, because it's you kind of skip all this all this passing tokens, authenticating external applications, and all this stuff. It just magically works under the hood. The problem is, as I was saying, with repositories that have a multiple, let's say, package JSON files or Go mode files, that you have to specify a path to each of them. So the whole thing here is just a way of trying to fix this situation. So I guess we can go with it. It seems like I've tested a lot of scenarios here. What could possibly go wrong with it? And I just need somebody's help to create this application that will provide the ephemeral tokens. Yeah, that's about it. What what I had for today.
Cool. Just to close the loop, Charles, Stephen, can we please give the access to Rally to do this in our GitHub?
I'm surprised he doesn't have any already, but
Yeah,
rather tell me exactly what you need. I'll enable it. Sure.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Cool. I'll ping you after the call.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
You. So that is that. And the other thing I wanted to discuss in this call. First of all, thanks, Dada. This is good. I think, Rado, I think between me and you, we had to do that contribution guide. I think probably me and you can sync offline to do that. I think we are in line for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the other two things I wanted to discuss. One is the branching strategy for going forward. And the other one is the test automation framework itself. So now probably branching strategy may be an easier one of the discussions. So we discussed this before. I mean, I think we are principally in agreement that, like instead of just creating tags off of main, we need to go with some kind of branching. So at this point of time, I think most of the community members were in agreement with that decision. So the decision that we need is, we discussed two kinds of branching. One is development versus stable. So there'll be a two branch strategy. So development will happen on the development branch, and whenever there's a release, there is a stable branch. That is one way to do it. The other way to do that we discussed is whenever there is a release, a major release like 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, we will cut a branch for that release. And obviously, there'll be a trunk. Trunk is our main development area where all the PRs get merged, etc. And then whenever there is a release, very, very traditional way of release management. And whenever there is a release, we'll cut a branch at that time. And then let's say at this point of time, we'll have a branch for R3, R4, R5, and so on. And if the main development will happen on the main branch of the trunk, and if for example, we are not in that such position yet, but I'm pretty sure we will if we are successful as a project, if we continue to be successful. Let's say if there is a fix that is needed, let's say for R3, then we have to do a patch release for that. Then the main fix will go into the main branch, and then we will cherry pick that fix into the R3 branch if we go in this way. And then we'll make a 4.3, R3.1 or whatever. So something like that. So these are the two main things essentially. I think we had to figure out which of these two branching strategies that we want to adopt, because we discussed we need some branching strategy. So let's brainstorm here, and if we can come to a conclusion, it's not very time critical, but it's good to put it off our thoughts and then say this is what we are gonna do. So any particular opinion on this? Yeah.
Yeah, just have like a maybe just quick suggestion.
Yeah.
Regarding the two options, I guess it should be nice to have like a clear, at least like some visualization where we can like understand the workflow, or like something that we can compare differences. So it would be nice or like a reference where we can make a clear distinction between the two proposals that you are saying, because yeah, now it could be hard to discuss or I mean, I agree with having let's define like a branch strategy. That's definitely something that we have to do it, and sooner or later we have to do it now. But yeah, it's like at least trying to understand like the two proposals is like a little bit more hard, I guess, at least from my perspective.
Okay. Thanks. You're suggesting at least there should be some presentation or something, contrasting both the methods, and then probably you can come to conclusion. Is that what I think that's what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Or you can open a PR also, right?
PR or
to
a
discuss
GitHub
the proposal.
discussion. Yes, yeah, or a GitHub discussion. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me open up a GitHub discussion. Let me come up with a presentation, one of the other two. So let's go from there. I know Tal had some opinion here. Tal, you want to chime in?
No strong opinion. I thought going for something simpler, just having having main be the tip, but also having another branch called stable, which is where we put our stable releases, right? But because of the tagging system in Git, it doesn't. I don't know. I think like Victor, I'm not sure what the pros and cons would be maybe of having a separate branch. So vaguely speaking, having a separate branch per release, per stable release, means that you can commit more on that branch and not on others, right? So if we're backporting, say, a fix, and we want to support that fix for 2 releases back, we can merge it into those 2 independent branches, right? Right. For example, if we need to release 1.03 and 2.05, right, with a backport. So having separate branches would help. Yeah, so I think we need to think about the pros and the cons. I think a branch per release is complicated, but it's also very cheap, in Git, right? Creating new branches is trivial. So yeah, it might not be a problem to have, say, 50 branches for 50 releases. And the benefits might be useful, right? Yeah, no strong opinion. I think it's important to have a pros and cons in a table, and then we can decide.
So are the tags not the same as branches? Sorry, it's been a while.
No, they're similar.
Not
They're
really.
both references,
Okay.
but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because each branch can have its own commit log, right?
Oh, yeah. That's true. Sorry. Now
That's
I
the
understand.
important part. Yeah. But you're right that tags are universal for the repository, right? But a tag could be on
Yes.
any branch, right?
Yes. That means the tag is usually on the main branch, is what I'm thinking. And then you can always go retag it. Like if it's 2.5 release, you can always make a 2.5 one release to
Oh,
tag.
well, I don't know that usually, but we're proposing here that no, that actually the main branch will not have tags except if it's the same commit on two branches, right? But the point is that when we cut a release, we basically create a branch, right? And we tag on that branch, right? So a stable release branch might have commits that are untagged, right? As we're merging things. Actually, there's so many options here. We can play with strategies in various ways, right? So,
yeah. And usually, if you can tag what the problem that we're trying to solve, that will help us all understand. That will also be great to add.
Oh, the problem I think is very clear to me because we have a lot of versioning information in our content that we commit, right? If it's image tags, if it's dependencies of various kinds, if it's package tags, right? So we suffered a lot through this with the catalog specifically, but it's everywhere. It's in APIs. So those kind of hard-coded versions, make files too, right? So those are very painful to switch between release mode and development mode. In development mode, we tend to use latest versions for everything, right? Because we want to test the latest versions. But when we cut a release, we don't want any of those to be committed in the code base. So until now, on the last two releases, we had a very annoying system by which we changed everything. We tagged a release, and then we changed everything back. So that's
I think we are not changed everything back at all.
we're not doing that anymore because we're finding a way to do that dynamically. But it's still the wrong tags, right? For development.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a big pain point, Vish. When we cut a release, that's when if you see generally when the contents of a file is dependent on the release, that's when this kind of problems becomes very, very, very painful. For example, let's think about this, right? When we are cutting a 2.0 release, if you look at the catalog repository, I just want to give you one example. The catalog repository, everything mentions a particular tag in the
Correct. I can see this with the catalog repository, which we can change, but in so
and then catalog repository we need to change, and then soon after doing that, it has to point to the main again, because we want to continue to test the ongoing changes of incoming development. So once we cut the release, all our catalog points to 2.0, for example, the one that we did. And then after that, we had to change it back to the tip of the branch again. So if we were to have a branch, for example, when we had a 2.0 thing, we will just do that in that branch and main will continue as it is. We don't have to go back and forth. So that's one example. I think that's actually, to be honest with you, that's a big enough pain point for us for the release process.
It'll be great, Bala, in the GitHub discussion if you can add this. I mean, because some of us tend to forget what are we trying to solve here. It'll be great if you can actually call that out. I mean, to Wim's point, I think is it because of the catalog is a special case. But yeah, I'll let Wim go ahead.
Yeah, I think, see, there is two things, right? So catalog is for me a very special case. And I would advocate that there having a branch per catalog is actually a per package in the catalog is actually the right way forward. Whereas for the rest of our repos, we can just use main. Because the problem is that so the thing is that these packages, they are independent units. Right? And of course, a release puts a certain version together, but each individually is an entity on itself, and you can attack those irrespective of the rest. That's my view on it, right? So I see really catalog as a special case. And we should not, because of the fact that we have a special case with catalog, unify that across the rest, because we make things way more complicated than it has to be.
Yeah, good point, Victor.
Yes, just trying to complement what Wim said. Yes, right. Catalog, especially we have like several packages. For example, like generic, like or like non-nephew packages. Yeah, we can keep it like, for example, cluster API or um, cert manager are external nephew packages, and we can keep it as a particular versions. But for the nephew packages, we have to keep especially two versions or like more dynamic versions. So where we have to test the latest with main, and also like keeping certain level of history, like moving or like specifying attacks on those packages. For example, I don't know, the nephew web UI or the nephew controllers or operator has to test two different packages, the main version and also like the the the, the release version as well.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
even Victor, when I did my version of the new port, right? I even built a tool to make the package management way more easy than it is today, right? So in other words, because these packages are actually individual elements, we merge them to main, but we don't have to, in my view. Right? And that creates more problems, in my view, than it actually solves. Because, but actually, I even would advocate that, for example, Cert Manager, we should tag with the version that we use from Cert Manager, because it makes it clear which version we use. Right?
Yeah, and also that package has to be somehow tag the Docker image version that they are using internally. Because, and also in some cases we have been using the latest tag in the image, even when the package has been tagged with a specific release or.
Yeah, I think we should treat this catalog as a separate thing. It has its own, because at the end of the day, the catalog is actually our catalog of things that we kind of, it's actually the dry packages, right? That's what we are managing.
Well, there's another problem we're trying to solve too, which is backporting fixes, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, but
that's the reason to branch. Yeah.
Let's say if I mean, backporting fixes for what? For the catalog or for the rest? Because I think
for every repo. Yeah, I'm trying to argue maybe having a unified
yes,
branching.
I think yeah, exactly. The thing is, first of all, none of this is going to be complex, like creating a branch or because everything is going to be based off an automated script, and like Tal said, it's going to be very cheap to create a branch. So this is going to be done once per release.
Bala, is that you have to, so from the moment you have a branch, what goes in, I always see, and I'll still treat catalog as a different kind than the regular code. And the reason I'm saying is the following, is that if you backport, you just create another version of the catalog, and that should fix it, right? And then you can say, okay, that's the version that I'm using. For other code, I would say I would advocate to keep main as the main thing. And when we release, you actually do a branch, right? And you only put things in there that are really needed. And then you continue to develop in main, and that branch is built there as a way to add capabilities that are have to be fixed or that are, and then the maintenance is low.
Absolutely, yes, I agree with that. Yes, so I think that's something similar to what we are discussing. Yeah, we cut the branch, and then most likely that is we will not touch that branch unless we have to backport fixes. Otherwise, it's going to be a reference. If tomorrow somebody wants to say, I want to create a FAO distribution based on that particular release, they can go back and just check it out and do it. And for us to do any critical fixes, for example, somebody says, I want I want community to apply this critical security fixes for this particular release. We can go back and fix the release. Or if we had to go back and check say we made a documentation error or something, we had to fix the documentation for that particular release, we can go back and check. So that's essentially what I'm thinking. I think that's similar to what you just said.
Yeah. Except for the catalog, it would mean that rather than tagging all the catalog with a single tag, right? You basically, your version is a reference to other tags. That's the difference in the catalog that we have to do. If you go with the approach that I was proposing.
Yeah, I think Wim, I think I'll start the discussion. Can we please add the things there so that we can there are two things. One is if you can see it in writing and stuff, probably everybody can get a chance to see. But I appreciate your thing. Probably we can decide there in the GitHub discussion one way or the other. I think more or less, I think we are agreeing to a lot of points. I think this is one thing probably we'll have to think. I'm getting a sense that many of us are also agreeing one branch per release. We are seeing some benefits here. Rahul also mentioned a few things in the chat. Along with the patching, he's talking about images, docs, etc. So I think more or less we are in agreement. I will start the discussion. Wim, please add this point to the discussion, and then probably we can figure out what the best way to handle the catalog.
Yeah. Is the discussion open already or not yet?
No, actually, I will have to start it. I will start that discussion. Yeah. I'll start the discussion and put in the SIG automation channel. Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Thanks, Wim. So the other topic I wanted to discuss about, maybe we do not have enough time. Probably it will discuss in the next one. So Tal, was that you who was sharing that, or was it Rado who was sharing that? Can you put the link of that particular diagram that you were sharing?
The versioning.
Yeah.
That's one that basically what you've said.
Okay.
So it's got a branch per release, and then everything continues on main. So that's and it's probably also the most widespread approach and the least confusing for everyone, new coming to the project and generally to development. So it will not add any additional mental load to figure out how things work in project.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Rado. I'll start the discussion with. I'll put this link there as well. So yeah, the other thing I wanted to discuss, I'll just tease it here. Probably we can discuss in the next one. The integration and end-to-end testing suite using. I know we have a few test cases now. Probably Victor can talk more intelligently on this, Victor and Rado, than I do. But I was thinking, how about creating how about using a tool such as Robo framework or some other framework that is Python based to write more end-to-end tests and onboard new members. So that is something I wanted to discuss. Go ahead, Victor.
Yes, I'm glad that you brought this particular topic because during the KubeCon, Entity was sharing their way that they set up the test infra. And one of the things that I was thinking is, in FIO, we talk about using KRM for modeling and GitOps best practices and all these things. But when you notice like the way that we are doing the end-to-end testing, it's at the end is very traditional. It's very legacy. We're just using bash scripts and we are not using all these benefits of using the approaches that we are try to evangelize.
Yeah.
So definitely one of the things I guess that we have to start switching is like using this other approach, maybe using or like implementing or Kubernetes operators for doing testing or like something that eventually we can scale up in the number of test cases. So for example, right now we only are supporting Pre-5GC and OI, but eventually, I mean, I don't discard the possibility that like someone can use Nephew not for doing the production deployment, also for this particular case, like setting up their test infra, the test lab in their own company, and they can use the same approach and the same tools. So that I'm in favor of using the tools that you mentioned, like Robot or any other automation tool. But I guess my point could be like try to use the same principles, especially like KRM principles, like where we specified our intents in terms like what we expect from the test and the end-to-end has to reconcile or like I don't know a Kubernetes way to say this is not following that intent.
Yeah. Great point, Victor. I think we are top of the hour. Thanks for bringing it up. I will make it as a main agenda for our next meeting. We'll discuss this, then we'll take it from there. Thank you. Thank you for this. I think the few things to consider in mind is the barrier to entry, the skill levels needed, all those things. Let's discuss the whole thing, Victor, in our next release call. I really appreciate you bringing this up. Yeah. And thank you, Fiacre, for putting the link there. And then we are top of the hour. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the next one. Really appreciate all the feedback here.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Tyler.